For over 12,000 years, the Zirith Dominion ruled the galaxy without challenge. Their fleets stretched across thousands of star systems. Entire civilizations paid tribute simply to avoid their attention. The Galactic Council feared them, merchants obeyed them, and even ancient races avoided provoking them. To the Dominion, war was never a gamble. It was an announcement. Then humanity arrived. Compared to the ancient empires, Earth looked insignificant. Humans controlled only a few hundred colonies. Their navy was small by galactic standards, and their diplomats preferred negotiation over conquest. The Council laughed whenever humans proposed peace treaties or scientific cooperation. "They're young," the delegates whispered. "They'll learn their place." The Zirith Emperor didn't even acknowledge humanity's existence until a rare mineral was discovered inside the Orion frontier. The mineral, called Etherium, could power fleets for centuries. Unfortunately for the Dominion, the richest deposits were inside human territory. The Zirith demanded immediate surrender of the colonies. Earth refused. Instead of threatening war, the human ambassador calmly addressed the Galactic Council. "We will defend every citizen under our protection." His voice carried no anger, only certainty. The chamber erupted in laughter. One Zirith admiral leaned forward and sneered. "You have 48 hours to surrender." Another added, "If you resist, Earth will become nothing more than a forgotten myth." The council applauded. Human representatives quietly gathered their documents. Before leaving, the ambassador paused. He looked directly at the emperor. Then he spoke words that nobody truly understood. "You still have time to cancel this war." Silence filled the chamber. The emperor smiled. "War has already begun." Within minutes, the largest invasion fleet in Zirith history entered human space. More than 20,000 warships crossed the border. Planetary defense stations opened fire. Human cruisers fought desperately. News broadcasts across the galaxy celebrated what everyone believed would become humanity's final hours. Commentators predicted Earth would surrender before sunset. Markets even rose, expecting another Dominion victory. Everything followed the usual pattern, at least for the first 6 hours. Then something strange happened. Human fleets stopped resisting. Every surviving ship retreated. Defense platforms powered down. Entire colonies appeared abandoned. The Dominion celebrated. "They're running. They've accepted defeat." The Emperor ordered every fleet deeper into human territory. No caution. No reconnaissance. No hesitation. Exactly what humanity wanted. Because while the galaxy watched the invasion, no one noticed thousands of civilian cargo vessels quietly leaving Earth. No one questioned why every communication satellite suddenly went silent. And no one realized that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't a battleship. It wasn't a super laser. It wasn't even hidden inside the solar system. It had been hidden across the galaxy for nearly 2 centuries. Waiting. Watching. Preparing for exactly this moment. 48 hours. That was the deadline the Zirith Empire had given humanity. But they never considered one terrifying possibility. What if humanity had spent those same 48 hours preparing the extinction of an empire? As the Dominion fleet pushed confidently toward Earth, a classified transmission reached every hidden human commander. 3 words appeared simultaneously across thousands of secret fleets. Protocol Ragnarok, authorized. Far beyond the borders of known space, ancient engines that had remained silent for generations finally came alive. And for the first time in galactic history, humanity stopped preparing for war. They prepared to end one. Across the galaxy, the Zirith Dominion celebrated what they believed was an inevitable victory. Every news network repeated the same headline: "Humanity is retreating." Military analysts praised the Emperor's strategy. Galactic traders began bidding on the future resources of Earth, convinced the human colonies would soon belong to the Dominion. Even members of the Galactic Council congratulated one another for supporting the war. They had all made the same mistake. They assumed humanity was afraid. But on Earth, no one panicked. Deep beneath the Himalayas, beneath kilometers of reinforced rock, a command facility older than the United Galactic Council came to life. Massive holographic star maps illuminated the chamber as admirals, scientists, and civilian leaders gathered in complete silence. At the center of the room stood Fleet Admiral Elena Voss, commander of humanity's Strategic Defense Command. She looked around the room before speaking only one sentence. "Confirm Protocol Ragnarok." One after another, officers responded. Western Fleet confirmed. Outer Rim Fleet confirmed. Void Fleet confirmed. Arc Fleet confirmed. Then came the final response. Ghost Fleet, online. For a brief moment, the room fell silent. Even the experienced admirals exchanged uneasy glances. The Ghost Fleet was more myth than reality. Official records claimed it had been dismantled nearly 180 years earlier after the devastating Orion Wars. Historians believed its surviving ships had been scrapped. That was exactly what humanity wanted everyone to believe. In truth, the fleet had never disappeared. It had simply vanished from history. Hidden in deep space shipyards beyond mapped star systems, engineers spent generations upgrading vessels no alien civilization even knew existed. Every ship was equipped with experimental quantum drives, adaptive armor, and gravity weapons capable of tearing apart entire battle formations. The Ghost Fleet had never fought a battle. It had been waiting for the only war that truly mattered. Meanwhile, the Zirith First Armada pushed deeper into human territory. Their sensors reported almost no resistance. Human colonies were empty. Factories were abandoned. Orbital stations floated without power. The Zirith commanders laughed. "They're too frightened to fight." The Emperor ordered every available fleet toward Earth, eager to claim humanity's homeworld before the 48-hour deadline expired. Without warning, every Dominion navigation system flickered. For exactly 3 seconds. Engineers dismissed it as a software glitch. They were wrong. Hidden human cyber teams had already infiltrated the Dominion's military communication network years earlier. During those 3 seconds, encrypted commands spread like invisible lightning across thousands of enemy vessels, silently corrupting targeting systems and delaying fleet coordination. No alarms sounded. No one noticed. The trap had already closed. At exactly hour 24 of the ultimatum, Admiral Voss received a secure transmission. "All Ghost Fleet task forces have reached attack positions." She gave a single nod. No broadcasts. No warnings. No negotiations. She looked at the glowing image of the advancing Dominion Armada. They wanted a demonstration of humanity's strength. Her voice remained calm. "They're about to receive one." Across the darkness between the stars, thousands of invisible human warships disengaged their stealth fields at the same instant. The blackness of space suddenly filled with engines that had remained hidden for generations. On every Zirith flagship, alarms exploded into life. One terrified officer stared at his sensor display and whispered, "Impossible!" The tactical screen showed a number no computer should have been able to calculate. Not hundreds. Not thousands. More than 50,000 human warships had appeared from the void, surrounding the Dominion on every side. And the battle had not even begun. The bridge of the Zirith flagship erupted into chaos. Enemy contacts confirmed. "They're everywhere." "How did they get behind us?" The tactical display glowed crimson. Every direction was filled with human warships. The Dominion's mighty First Armada, once considered invincible, had been completely surrounded. Emperor Kaler watched the holographic map in disbelief. "That's impossible," he growled. "No civilization could build a fleet this large without us knowing." His chief intelligence officer lowered his head. "It appears they never built it all at once." Kaler frowned. "What do you mean?" The officer swallowed nervously. "Our records indicate humanity has secretly constructed these ships over nearly 2 centuries. They disguised military shipyards as civilian mining stations, commercial docks, and deep space research facilities. Every report we received about their industrial growth was intentionally misleading." Silence consumed the bridge. The Emperor finally realized the truth. Humanity hadn't been weak. They had simply allowed the galaxy to believe they were. Aboard the human flagship HFS Resolute, Admiral Elena Voss stood calmly before the command screen. Open a channel to every Dominion ship. Within seconds, the transmission spread across thousands of enemy vessels. The Admiral's voice echoed through every bridge. You declared war on humanity. You crossed our borders. You rejected every opportunity for peace. She paused. Your crews may surrender now. Any ship that powers down its weapons will be spared. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the Zirith Emperor answered personally. You expect the greatest empire in history to surrender to primitives? Admiral Voss gave a quiet smile. I expected that answer. She turned toward her weapons officer. Begin Phase 1. Yes, Admiral. The order echoed across the hidden fleet. No dramatic speeches. No countdown. Only action. In perfect synchronization, thousands of human battleships unleashed precision gravity lances. Brilliant blue beams crossed the darkness of space. But instead of exploding, they bent gravity itself. Entire Dominion battle formations suddenly collapsed inward. Cruisers collided with cruisers. Destroyers spun helplessly into one another. Massive carriers fractured under their own weight before a single missile struck them. The Zirith fleet dissolved into confusion. Before they could reorganize, Phase 2 began. Human drone swarms poured from concealed launch bays like silver storms. Millions of autonomous fighters overwhelmed Dominion defenses, disabling shields, engines, and weapon systems with surgical precision. Not one civilian transport was targeted. Not one escape pod was fired upon. Humanity fought with ruthless efficiency, but never cruelty. Watching from the Galactic Council's Emergency Command Center, delegates stared in stunned silence. One ambassador whispered, "This isn't revenge. It's a lesson." Across the galaxy, billions watched live as the empire they had feared for millennia began to crumble in less than an hour. Then came the report that changed everything. A frightened Zirith communications officer shouted, "Your Majesty, we've lost contact with the Second Armada." Moments later, the Third Armada has disappeared from sensors. Then another. The Fourth Armada has surrendered. The impossible was happening. Human strike groups weren't fighting a single battle. They were attacking every major Dominion fleet simultaneously. This had never been a defensive plan. It had been a carefully prepared campaign designed years before the first shot was fired. Emperor Kaler gripped his throne so tightly that the metal cracked beneath his claws. For the first time in his reign, he understood that the war had already been lost. And somewhere beyond the battlefield, another human fleet was accelerating toward the Dominion's capital world. The greatest empire in galactic history had only hours left to exist. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The Zirith Dominion was collapsing. For the first time in over 12,000 years, worlds that had lived under the Dominion's rule dared to hope. Across thousands of occupied systems, citizens watched in disbelief as the once invincible Imperial fleets disappeared from the star maps one after another. Some celebrated. Others refused to believe it. "It must be propaganda," one council delegate whispered. "No empire that powerful can fall in a single day." But the evidence continued to arrive. Every hour brought another devastating report. The Second Armada had surrendered after losing its command ship. The Fifth Armada abandoned its mission and fled into uncharted space. Entire garrisons laid down their weapons rather than continue fighting an enemy they could neither predict nor defeat. Humanity was advancing with terrifying precision. Not a single civilian city had been bombarded. Power stations remained untouched. Hospitals, food supplies, and evacuation corridors were protected by human fleets before local authorities could even request assistance. The message was unmistakable. Humanity had not come to conquer. They had come to end a war. At the Dominion capital, panic replaced arrogance. Emergency sirens echoed through the Imperial Palace as ministers rushed into the war chamber. Emperor Kaler stood before the massive holographic display. Almost every military sector flashed red. One exhausted admiral stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we have lost 70% of our strategic fleet." Another officer added quietly, Our outer defenses have completely failed. Kaler slammed his fist onto the command table. Where is their main fleet? The answer froze the room. They don't have one, Your Majesty. The Emperor looked up. What? The officer enlarged the tactical map. Thousands of blue markers appeared across the Dominion. They divided their navy into independent battle groups decades ago. Every group can operate alone. Destroy one, and a dozen more continue the mission. It was brilliant. For centuries, every empire had relied on a single massive command structure. Humanity had abandoned that idea long ago. Their navy functioned like living cells. Cut off one part, the rest became even harder to stop. Meanwhile, Admiral Elena Voss stood aboard the HFS Resolute, watching the Dominion capital grow larger through the observation window. Her communications officer turned toward her. Admiral, we're within range of the Imperial Palace. The bridge fell silent. Every officer knew what came next. One strike, one order, and the oldest empire in known history would vanish forever. Instead, Voss surprised everyone. Open a secure channel to Emperor Kaler. Moments later, the Emperor's image appeared. His face no longer carried pride. Only exhaustion. Voss spoke calmly. This war can still end today. Kaler laughed bitterly. You've surrounded my capital. You've destroyed my fleets. And you offer peace? Voss nodded. I offer justice. She activated a holographic display showing every occupied world under Dominion rule. Withdraw every surviving fleet. Release every conquered system. Recognize the sovereignty of every civilization you enslaved. Accept responsibility for starting this war. The Emperor stared silently. Outside the palace windows, thousands of human warships filled the sky. There was no escape. No reinforcements. No miracle. After a long silence, Kaler removed the imperial crown and placed it upon the command table. The Zirith Dominion. His voice trembled. Surrenders. Across the galaxy, billions witnessed the moment live. The empire that had ruled through fear for 12 millennia ended not with its capital burning, but with its ruler admitting defeat. Yet even as celebrations erupted across liberated worlds, Admiral Voss received an encrypted message. Her expression changed instantly. The communications officer frowned. What is it, Admiral? She looked toward the stars beyond the capital. It wasn't the Zirith who started all of this. A new transmission appeared on every tactical display. Unknown fleet detected. Origin, beyond the galactic rim. And the number of incoming ships exceeded every fleet humanity had ever assembled. The celebration across the galaxy lasted exactly 17 minutes. Then every long-range sensor network detected the same impossible signal. An enormous fleet was approaching from beyond the galactic rim. Not hundreds. Not thousands. Nearly 100,000 unidentified warships. They emitted no diplomatic codes, no recognizable engine signatures, and no language known to the Galactic Council. Their technology surpassed anything ever recorded. Panic spread instantly. The Galactic Council declared a Level 1 existential emergency. Former enemies stood shoulder to shoulder. Even the defeated Zirith officers silently prepared to defend their homeworld, knowing that whatever was coming threatened every civilization equally. Inside the Human Strategic Command, Admiral Elena Voss studied the incoming data. Origin confirmed? She asked. A young intelligence officer nodded. Yes, Admiral. The fleet has remained hidden outside our galaxy for centuries. They've been observing every major civilization, waiting. Waiting for what? The officer took a deep breath. For one empire to dominate the galaxy completely. A chilling silence filled the command center. Humanity understood immediately. The mysterious armada had intended to invade only after the galaxy had exhausted itself under a single ruler. The fall of the Zirith Dominion had disrupted their plan. They were arriving early. A transmission suddenly appeared on every communication network. The unknown fleet had finally spoken. Its voice was cold and mechanical. Civilizations of this galaxy. Your conflict has concluded. Your era is over. Prepare for assimilation. The message repeated in thousands of languages. Across countless worlds, fear returned. Then Admiral Voss gave a simple order. Open every channel. Within seconds, every inhabited planet could hear her voice. This galaxy has spent thousands of years divided by fear. We fought one another. We conquered one another. We underestimated one another. She paused before continuing. But today, we stand together. Her message was not directed only to humanity. It was directed to everyone. To former enemies. To old allies. Even to the defeated Zereth. If you choose to defend your home, stand with us. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then one by one, responses began arriving. A Zereth admiral transmitted first. The Dominion fleet stands with Earth. A republic that had once feared humans pledged its carriers. Ancient civilizations awakened reserve fleets they had hidden for centuries. Merchant guilds converted cargo ships into evacuation vessels. Scientists from dozens of species shared experimental technologies without demanding payment. For the first time in galactic history, the galaxy fought as one. Hours later, the unknown fleet reached the edge of the solar defense line. Instead of finding isolated civilizations, they found a united armada stretching across millions of kilometers. Human battleships stood beside Zereth cruisers. Ancient dreadnoughts guarded civilian transports. Former rivals now defended one another. The invaders hesitated. Their commander analyzed the combined fleet. Then unexpectedly, the alien armada altered course. Without firing a single shot, it turned away from the galaxy and disappeared back into the darkness beyond the rim. Their final transmission contained only one sentence. The united galaxy is no longer worth conquering. Silence followed. No cheers. No celebrations. Only relief. Months later, the Galactic Council voted unanimously to dissolve the old system of imperial dominance and create a new alliance where every civilization had an equal voice. Humanity refused the title of supreme ruler. Instead, Admiral Voss addressed the Council one last time. Power built on fear always falls. But peace built on trust can outlive the stars. The chamber rose in applause. The war that was meant to erase humanity had instead united the entire galaxy. And from that day forward, every academy, every fleet, and every world remembered one lesson. Never mistake humanity's desire for peace as a lack of strength.